Welcome back to the Order Chaos Club podcast, where we dive deep into the beautiful, messy intersection of faith and creativity each and every episode. I'm your host, Pastor Fury, and today it's an ensemble episode where I'm joined by my incredible co-hosts, Jarael, Katina, and SK. And together, we're tackling a topic that every creative wrestles with: judgment. Whether it's judgment that we place on ourselves, the feedback we get from others, or even the way that we critique our own work, judgment can either be fuel for growth or a roadblock to creativity. So today we're going to explore both sides of that coin. How does external judgment, both criticism and encouragement, shape the creative process? What happens when we judge ourselves too harshly? And how do we break free from that inner doubt, that inner voice that is trying to hold us back sometimes? Can believing in our own greatness actually help, or does it lead to creative stagnation? And what's the power of a hype squad, having people around you, to gas you up, to believe in you and help push you forward? Plus, we're going to get into some fun would you rather questions as we end the episode to really get us thinking about how judgment and creativity collide into some really ridiculous ways. So stick around. I think today is going to be a really good episode. Today on the Ordered Chaos Club podcast. All right, you guys, here we are, episode 5 of season 3, or season 2. Season 2, what am I talking about? I'm all the way in next year already. You guys, I'm excited for this ensemble conversation. We've been trying to get more and more folks on the pod, and today things have come to fruition. I've got none other than Jarael Cosmano with me.
Hey, guys.
And you guys know her very well. And then we've got Katina Horton, who you guys just met a couple episodes ago.
Hello.
She is bad. I'm so excited. I told you guys in that episode, if you watched it, if you didn't already, go ahead and go back to what was it? Episode 2? I don't know. It's a couple episodes to go. You're gonna definitely want to go back and find that. And I told y'all at the end of that episode that I was gonna find more ways to get her involved in the conversations, and this is one of them, you guys. So I'm super pumped to have her voice in here, continuing to bless y'all. And there's another face here that you guys definitely probably don't recognize. It's none other than my brother SK Eskia Drew. I don't know how you want me to pronounce your name for the public here, but he is a brother in Christ, been a friend for a while, somebody who's passionate about making films. And why don't you say hi and let folks know a little bit about you.
Hello, and it's Askia. I love it. He who hears and understands, that's my name. And you know me, you love me, you can call me SK. No, I'm here for either one. Yes, I'm passionate about filmmaking. I love storytelling. I like visual storytelling. And I just want to find ways to bring people together. And I always know that a good movie brings people together artistically and literally to watch it, and then afterwards to talk about it, or spend time with family and friends. Movies are a place where people gather. And I like to find ways to bridge those things, art and bringing people together. And I think films do that. And I think it's the ultimate expression of my faith as well.
Oh, man. That's beautiful, man. And I'm excited about all the different ways we're going to see more and more of your God-filled creativity flow. So we're excited to have you on the pod.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Well, you guys, as I said in the intro, today we are going to be talking about judgment and creativity and kind of the impacts that judgment often has. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of preaching here on the front end. We're going to just be having a discussion. So why don't you go ahead and wherever you're at, get your cup of coffee, chill in the couch. Maybe you're hanging out by the fireplace because it's freezing cold where you're at, maybe. And just be in this convo here with us. And as we go, if you've got thoughts, if you've got questions, just go ahead and put those in the comment section wherever you're watching or listening, and we'll try and reply to those in an upcoming episode. But let's kick this off talking about judgment to begin with. Like, how would you really define judgment? And let's think about it from like a creative lens, and Mike, how does that even show up in your own creative process? So let's start off by like in your own words, like what does judgment look like? And I don't know, we didn't make a defined order on who's gonna holler first. So whoever's anxious can jump on in here and say something first.
You know what? I'm when I think of judgment, I think of us establishing a standard and a measuring stick
Mhm.
for how people should think, how they should live, how they should act, and it could be in any of the areas of creatively. It can be culturally, socially, emotionally, physically, mentally,
Mm.
professionally, like any area you can think of. We've created a standard and a measuring stick, and 9 times out of 10, we've established ourselves as the measuring stick. And
Mm.
9 times out of 10, our standard would be it's either probably trauma or an area in our life when we were emotionally immature. So that's what I would say. So like I said, all any area could be up for grabs, and like creativity goes right in there. So yeah,
Mm.
anything that, like I said, basically where you have that judgment, where you have the measuring stick, and where you set a standard and you base
Wow.
that standard upon something. Yeah.
I think I just learned we're gonna have Katina go last on some of these opinions.
I always go long. I know,
No, no,
sorry.
no, not that it was long,
Ooh.
but I was like, dang, that's actually really good. Like I don't
It's
know if
like,
there's
how can you
much
add
else.
to it?
Right,
Hey,
right.
it's good.
I don't
We
know
appreciate you.
who
Thank you.
wants
I
to try.
appreciate it.
Who wants to try to say something? It's like so. Let me put it this way. I know what I do in a lot of circles where I'll be like trying to, make space for people to share their ideas. If I know in that conversation that I am looked at as like an authority and what I say can sometimes be like taken as the answer, I try to intentionally be last because I don't want to silence
Ah,
everybody else from sharing their thoughts because they don't want them to feel like, well, he already said the answer. But like
got you.
you clear, and that's not me trying to say you did anything wrong. I'm just like, dang, you just reminded me the amount of
Ah,
wisdom that you bring to these conversations. So we
oh,
might
thank you.
we
I
might
appreciate it.
yeah, we might have to have the wisest one last.
You're
But that's okay. That's not to diminish anybody else's voice. So, is there a different take or a spin or a place where that hits any of you guys differently?
Yeah, for me, my I am going to use words that you used,
No
uh,
problem.
because I like them. So measuring stick, standard, and standard. I I like those. So as an artist, I I I didn't become an artist because I wanted to keep my art to myself. Like I became an artist because I believed that I had something within me that was worth sharing, and I chose art as the way to express that. And I have the expectation that people are going to have something to say about it.
Mm.
So that so I want that. Like the judgment is I think a part of the process of the creation. And I mean, I'll even say that's biblical. I mean, there's a judgment process that we're all going to experience at one point, at some point.
Mhm.
And in the Bible, there were roles where people were called judges. So, I can explore that. I need to explore that, but I do know that that was a thing. So when I'm thinking about judgment, I'm thinking about it from, okay, like, as an artist, like I want you to critique my work. Like, or is this not good? And when I compare it to my fellow artists, I want us to be like, yeah, like we used to could just draw circles, but now we can draw a whole face. and you can recognize the person who the face is, because now we went through a process of refinement. And like we said, we use these measuring sticks and we use these standards to say, yes, I have progressed as an artist. And even me, like, I have decided that I want to commit to being a visual artist, but on paper. So since the beginning of the year, every day I've been drawing in my sketchbook. Today I drew a face of a person, and someone else came by and said, "Oh my God, that's the person. That's a picture of such and such and such and such." And I was like, "Yes, it is. It is." That's exactly who that is. But that is a measuring stick for me to say, yes, I intentionally was trying to draw this person's face, and someone else walked past and could also notice that that was that person as well. And I welcomed that. Now, people judgment aren't always good. People gonna have people they gonna have things to say that might be hurtful, might be mean. They're entitled to their judgment, but how I receive it is up to me. But also as an artist, like when I first started doing art, I picked the cheapest pencil because it was the one that I could afford, and not because I knew anything about drawing. Now, if I go to pick up the 99-cent pencil, it's intentional because that's the pencil that's going to be the best for the job that I want to do. And I'm using my judgment to decide, man, I could get this or I could get that. And this is the result that I want. And I know that if I pick up this material, this is what the result is going to be because I practiced it and I've, played with it. I got in the sandbox and I got a little dirty with it. And now I can say, oh, now I know what I like. And when I go to the canvas or when I go to the drawing board, I can decide that this is what I want to use because this feels good to me, and then now I can become a more authentic artist. And, so this is what I'm thinking about when you say judgment.
All right. I appreciate that. And I'm glad it's even a further nuanced thought from what Katina shared. Excellent.
Yeah.
What you got? What do you got, Jarael?
No, when you first said it, I was thinking, yeah, judgment. For me, that just automatically negative connotation popped into my head, just like judging. But I liked Ed's perspective as, the judgment is used as the tool for growth. Like, yeah, this is where I was, and someone's judging, their judgment may be negative, but that can help accelerate you to the next level in your creativity because it's like, yeah, this isn't that great, or maybe you think it's great, but it could be better. So yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
And I think for me, even piggybacking off of what you said, Jariel, the reason why well, I shouldn't say the reason, but one reason why you probably even went to a negative connotation, because I posed it from a negative connotation. because, because because we all bring our own. That's why it's beautiful that we start at this place of kind of like defining what we're thinking about when we say that, because we all bring our own experiences and biases and understandings with us. And for me, it has been in a negative connotation in my life. And I like one of the things that you said, SK, after spending a little bit of your response talking about just the beneficial ways in which there's judgment. You talked about how there could be people that have bad judgments, but then you said, but it's about how I receive it. And I think what I know has been true for me, and this is kind of already fast forwarding to some other questions that I had. For me, when I've thought about judgment, it's always gone back to now I'm going back to Katina's response, some places of trauma for me where there was a judgment that was placed on. It might have been a thing that I did or a thing that I said, but I received it as me, and then as a result, once I put that judgment as just clearly a reflection of just me, then it was like once that got embedded in me, the things that I did, the things that I said, all kind of carried that same pronouncement. Like, oh, this, this thing that was declared over me that I mistakenly received as a truth, now is like tainting everything else that I do and see. And I feel like that became the measuring stick for me. And I found myself struggling to measure up to that because I'm holding the measuring stick. And if I believe that the measuring stick's here, but I'm here, here's what happens every time I create something. The measuring stick keeps moving. And despite the fact that I'm up here now, the measuring stick is now up here because no matter what, in my head, wherever that is, I'm just below it,
Mm.
And so I think that for me has found its way into, all of my creativity, so much so that like I'm spending ever since the beginning of December every day trying to rewire my brain and speak an actual truth over myself about what God says about me and what he believes about what I create. I know that we just went deep in like in the first 10 minutes of this conversation.
All art is
But
deep.
right. Well, I mean, it can be, right? It's how you receive it. Because you said, I love
Well,
one of
for
the
the
things you
artist, at
said.
least it is.
Right, because it means something when they're actually creating something from a real place. Yeah, because you even said at one point we were drawing circles and now we're drawing faces, but like a circle can be deep for the artist depending on what they
Absolutely.
were.
I just saw a painting of a circle that's worth thousands of dollars, and I'm
There
still
you
trying
go.
to figure out why. Why? What happened? What happened, Lord? What did I miss?
Yep, in museums, right? You'll see an ice
Right.
sculpture in the shape of a circle, a rectangle, or a square.
Right.
And like you said,
Like,
you're just like, oh,
but
it's
but
beautiful.
but I
You walk
understand.
past and everybody's
But
looking and studying and taking notes. But
but
that's
then
the one
again,
thing. Go ahead.
but then I get like they asked that person to recreate that probably 1,000 times, and because they spent the years at that canvas, they could just
Mm-hmm.
do it, and it's gonna take me a minute. So I get it, but at the same time, when you look at it, it looks so simple. But is it? Is it? Is it?
Right.
Uh,
Mm.
it's hard sometimes, but that's why art is good, because it is, one, it's arbitrary, because I'm not putting a yellow circle that's worth $1,000 on my wall, because at this point I cannot afford that. um, but I do respect that it's the craft, and
Yeah.
that person did do some deep thinking and it meant something, and they
Yeah.
could charge that much money and be worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we all want to be, we all want to know what our worth is, and then we all want to put that worth out, and we want others to believe it too. Like, so, you know, I'm not mad at you.
And what's great is like you could have as the artist, one really deep meaning of that circle, as you said, it was a yellow circle, but somebody else, when looking at it, they could have like, oh, this is trash, it doesn't mean anything, this is, why am I looking at this? Or they could have a very different super deep meaning, like, oh man, that yellow circle, that really spoke to me because that looks a lot like my wedding band, and I just lost my husband last week. You know what I mean? Like, and now this painting is like priceless for this person.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's so much that's wrapped up in it.
And it all
You were
goes
gonna,
back
you
to
were
our
gonna,
judgment. That's what we said.
yeah,
Starts with our
yeah.
judgment.
Katina, you were gonna say something before. Did you still want to
Oh,
share?
what I was thinking when SK was talking is the fact that, a lot of times people say, well, don't take this and that personal. But I think when it comes to an artist's work,
Mm.
everything is personal. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard for me to describe, but it's like it's your creation of art. And sometimes what you see and feel and the work is kind of like when you interviewed me and I talked about dance. So some other
Hmm.
people might say, well, that's just too dramatic. That's too much. But it's not too much for me because
Hmm.
when I dance and I express myself, I'm able to zone out and go to that place where I feel like it's just me and the Lord, even if I have an audience. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as I talked about before, one of my favorite dances to dance off of is CC Winans Alabaster Box. So it's like when you go there and you feel that connection with yourself and the Lord. So as the artist slash dancer slash choreographer, and you express that, it might be seen differently in each person's eyes that's watching it, as well as the person that's the artist that's doing the dance. And does that make sense? So I think a lot of our work is personal, even though we can kind of collectively go over things. But I think a lot of it is more of a personal experience based upon like a lot of little mini stories that I would say that kind of combine and make an entire story.
Yeah. I think that's very well put, and it's also a great truth that helps delineate between, especially in this day and age of like the replicatable AI kind of cookie cutter versus like something that is genuine and came from someone's life experience, that like their spirit was all over this as they were writing or drawing or dancing, you know what I mean? And I think in the episode, the interview that you and I had, Katina, I was reminded of that video clip from, I think I shared it with you after, right?
You
I don't know,
did.
have Jarael, Eske, have you guys ever seen the behind the scenes of the film The Greatest Showman? Well, first of all, do you even know the film The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman?
Oh, yeah.
So there was a behind the scenes clip that started to make its rounds. I don't know, maybe a few weeks back. And the film's old now, but like it was this behind the scenes clip from when they were trying to get the film greenlit. Where I gotta remember the woman's name. I can't remember her name, but the one who sang "This Is Me," and in that clip she like it's so cool because it's just like in like a choir rehearsal room or whatever. It just looks like any old classroom or whatever. And they've got their little music stands or whatever, and she starts singing, and it's like, okay, yeah, she can sing, you can recognize her voice. But then like about 75% of the way through it, as she's been building, you can tell that she's not just like singing notes, that like she's singing experience, you know what I mean? And it draws you into what she's feeling, and like that's the precarious work of genuine art, is like you're sharing this genuine experience with people and their judgment, and like, and you know what I mean, and like are you strong enough to be able to withstand their judgment that may be harsh, that may be painful. And I think, kind of transitioning to my next question, I want to talk about the inner critic in us all. That's one of the things that I found, that I would, to as a way to protect myself from the harsh judgments of others, I would do one of two things. You know what? I'm gonna hold that. I'm gonna hold that thought, and I'll share that last. I'm gonna get y'all thinking about that. So let's talk about the inner critic first of all, for each one of you guys, and I want you to share in your own personal experience. Um, have you, like, what does that phrase even mean to you, and is that a helpful, positive thing? Or is that a negative, harmful thing, this understanding of your own inner critic as you are engaging with your creative work and your creative process? So, like, do you see that voice, that inner critic, as someone who is working in tandem with your best intentions of your art, or someone who is actually working to prevent your work from really being all it could be, if that even makes any sense?
It makes sense.
And I'm gonna pick somebody. Jariel, you go first.
Ooh. No, I think
What up?
I think we've spoken on this before. My inner critic is she's not nice, but it's just very detrimental to my creativity. And I think it's steeped in fear. It's steeped in, as Katina was saying, like trauma, just the hearing what people are going to say. But then playing over those instances when people did say or do things that like kind of like squash that creativity. And so I think I've just adopted those thoughts and I say those things to myself. And that's why I really like Katina and SK, because you can tell like they've done the work with their inner critic, and their inner critic is like cheering them on. And I'm like,
it sounds like it. I want to hear what they're taking that would be. Yeah. And don't feel like that has to be what you guys say right now, but that is the vibe I was
getting. We need an inner critic play date. My inner critic needs some friends.
That is hilarious.
So does mine.
So what would you say to that, SK? Is that how you would criticize or characterize your own inner critic, or is that really just kind of how you sometimes, publicly share? So what is it really like?
I feel like my inner critic is an amateur at times, because I'm like, like an amateur in like am I properly critiquing myself correctly? And I'm something like, by whose standards am I really judging myself by? And why? Because there are some people whose standards I really do want to be judged by. Like let's say if I make a film where the protagonist is a Black person, well, I expect Black people to watch it, and when Black people see it, I expect them to have some positive or negative things to say about it. But I am welcoming and expecting their judgment. And when I am creating the thing, I am building what I think their judgments might be into the work. There are other people's judgments that I actually don't care. And I'm not
bringing with you in mind.
did not think about, but I am aware that they might offer judgment that could be useful and valuable to my process. But I'm not saying that. So when it comes to my inner critic, my inner critic is I think sometimes unrefined at times, because I think all my stuff is great. And
but that's what I love about that, SK, is like so what you just said is your inner critic gasses you up.
Absolutely. Like they're gonna be like, man, that sentence was fantastic. but then I'll read somebody else's sentence who I believe writes good sentences. Then I'll read like a Toni Morrison sentence, or I'll read a random sentence in the Bible, and sometimes I don't even know who wrote them, but the way they use language is a way that I aspire to also use language. And I realized that I didn't use language like that at all. But I didn't know that when I was doing it, at the time, I thought I was doing the best that I could, and I was doing it,
that sounds so wonderfully healthy, SK. Though.
Right?
No.
I'm just saying, like, because what just happened in there, what I'm hearing, it sounds like, so then now you've read these other things, and now your inner critic is learning. It's like, oh,
yeah, and I'm like, and I go back and I'm like, it was not it. We're not there yet.
Right.
We're not there yet. Like I didn't look, because it's like, I never look at, it's like when you look at your artwork when you were like a child, like, are you looking at your child self and being like, oh my God, how dare you draw a flower like that? Like, you didn't say that to yourself. You were like, oh, that's where I was at the time.
If I look back now, yes.
But if we did that to ourselves in all of our other areas, we might find that we were just at that time, at that space, at that time, and the very real trauma that we experienced in those moments, we can be like, well, that is just where we were at that time. But we are not drawing flowers the same way today. So we do not have to experience the same trauma the same way today. That is all that I'm posing when I say that. We can look at ourselves and say that we had some growth, and those loops on that drawing back then, you knew it was a flower because you drew it. And you told your mama that it was a flower, and she said, "Oh, great." But today, when you draw a flower, they're gonna know that was a lily. Okay, you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You say, and that's how and that's what I'm saying. That's where I said that's where my inner critic. It's my cheerleader, but I have the expectation that it's gassing me up. I know that my inner critic is gassing me up.
That's all I'm saying is I'm jealous, bro. That's all I'm saying. I'm not mad at you, and I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, I welcome judgment because I know that my inner critic is gassing me up, and I am
and that makes sense.
I'm using judgment to say, how much of this is smoke and how much of this is and
that's good. I feel like it's a reversal of some of my default thinking where you're like, you've got the cheerleader and you're looking outward for voices to help you refine, right? And my default is just reversed. but the problem with that is with yours, by default, creativity can easily flow because I will spend so much time in my head refining it without it coming out because I need it to be as perfect as I think before it goes out there. Because you know what I'm saying? And that is a hindrance to creativity happening. You know what I mean? And I'll just be in my head like, nope, that ain't it. Nope. That's why I could never be a freestyle rapper. You know what I mean? Because like I'm never gonna finish a bar. Like, anyways, Katina, I want to hear from you and your thoughts on this. Drop some pearls.
You said drop some pearls. I can see myself on both sides of it. The thing about it, it took me a good long time through, therapy and doing a lot of healing work to even realize that there was an inner critic there. And what I realized, first of all, the first inner critic was due to childhood trauma and the way that I was raised with this perfectionism going through the DNA. Remember, we talked about that when you interviewed me. So that was the beginning of that. So it's like you've got me having to, I guess I would say, dissect and like deconstruct all of that, the critical and perfectionism statements and judgmental. And they were not meant to hurt. I believe that, my mother, like I said, she was a teenager and she both parents did the best that they could. And, along with that, what she said was meant to, in her perfectionism, that is, was meant to try to get me to do better, but not realizing that what was going on is that it was harming me. It was not helping. So I have that inner critic voice from childhood. And then I had the inner critic of different people that I was hurt by, like one particular young lady at church that made the statement. So I had that for the longest, that I had to work through with her making a statement about, oh, her mother's so beautiful, what happened to her? So I had that for a long time. Then I had the inner critic from my ex-husband being in that toxic relationship. And then because what happens is that every relationship we're in, if it's not a good one, if it's a super unhealthy / toxic one, we don't necessarily realize right away. We might go like, oh, that was really bad. But we don't realize everyone that's bad, like there's damage to the soul. So then the next thing you know, you're getting, like you have stuff coming across your mental space that's not even you, it's from the other person. Does that make sense? So then trying to weed that out. So if it ever comes in, but in the beginning, it took me a while to see that. And I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? And all of a sudden my mind's like, oh, it's going back to childhood. Okay, why am I saying this and thinking about myself, this about myself or about my work? Okay, it's going back to the relationship with my ex-husband, and I'm reminding myself. So now for me doing the work, if anything comes up, it's like, Tina, this is trauma. This is trauma trying to set the standard. This is trauma, and reminding myself where it comes from and then where my identity lies and cheering myself on, and even that inner critic will come up sometimes and maybe think about when SK was talking about looking at other people's work. And then you're like, oh, I wish I could say it like that. And that type of thing. And then when I find myself doing it, I'm like, nope. Because guess what? You're saying it the way that you're saying it because God has taken you through a different journey than that individual person. And you don't want their journey and they don't want yours. Because in order for us to be able to do anything like somebody else does, we had to have gone through that journey in order to spit that information out like that. And it makes me think about when my therapist, she said that I'm not just saying this because I am your therapist. I have a, degree in journalism, but she was saying that when it comes to my writing, that I have a way with words that's able to, because I told her when I write the books, I'm trying to figure out or a quote or whatever, the best way to say something without being too technical, but I want to be able to have it. I understand what I'm trying to say. I want to make sure that anybody else reading it will catch on to what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? Because some things like emotional terms, or if it's clinical terms, a person might not understand it. But when I explain it, I try to explain it in a way where it's like no way around people not understanding what I'm trying to say. Even if it's given a metaphorical story and lining that metaphorical story up with the clinical terms so they can understand. So she told me that I have a gifting for that, and that she wasn't just saying that, but like I have a way to be able to take those words and what I've been through and be able to make it so that anybody can understand and go like, oh, so this is what I've been through. But yeah, so even as SK was talking about with the work, even a few days ago, I had posted something. Was that last week? I think it was the tail end, and I had posted something and I was like, oh, Holy Spirit. I said, man, that was good what you gave me. And then I said, you know what? Nope. I am going to take credit for my part. I'm not going to have it where, because that's a part that could be false humility. I'm like, Tina, you did good. That was jamming. And the Holy Spirit gave it to you to put it all together because this was all of your experience right there in this quote. You know what I'm saying? And I saw where after I posted it was some people that really, a few people commented and it really resonated with people what I was trying to say and hoping that I was conveying the right thing. You see what I'm saying? I was conveying the message I was trying to convey, but I can tell from the response that even if I didn't get I still knew that I had put it out there the best way that I could. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. That's good. And I'm just reminded of the work that I still need to do. I started right, Jarael. That's why I love the balance in this conversation here. As I started this conversation on the inner critic, I started to share, and I kind of alluded to it already after I think SK spoke. But for me, the inner critic has really been just a megaphone of the statements that came out of trauma, and just finding different ways to say the same things to really like get me to shrink back and not to step into different things. And so what I end up doing in a lot of times is I will have a world of creative ideas all just up here that don't make it out, because while those are up there, there's also the inner critic up there like, nope, this one's dumb. This doesn't make any sense. No one's going to believe in that. That's going to be whack. You know what I mean? And like, there has to be like a real battle happening, or literally someone else saying something affirming of one of those ideas that then caused me to like risk bringing it out there. And like, I've just been even in this season right now, like I talked about, having to grab a hold of different truths to try and like rewire. Like one of the, like I've got like 12 things that I'm writing and reciting aloud every day, and one of them is I am my biggest fan, and it feels like a lie every single day still to this day. Like it's like I don't agree with this yet, and I know that that's a thing that I want to be true, that I want to be like, I want that inner critic to be a cheerleader. I want to, SK, I'm jealous. I want a cheerleader, man. I
Okay,
want a
okay,
cheerleader
no,
operating with
okay,
me.
you do. But I also would like to point out that I also think that everything I do is good. So when I
It's
do
not
something that
perfect, right? Yeah.
so when I mean, let's say that I could have given more, or maybe I probably should have waited before I started to write that, or
Right.
maybe this idea could have been more refined if I had of, did X, Y, and Z thing, because I don't always follow the creative process. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know any of us that like are doing all the steps that we were taught to do. Uh,
Right.
because if we were doing those things, we probably would have a longer body of work, or would be in a different place with our creativity if we were.
Yeah.
Now I am saying, but again, that is where our measuring stick and our judgment goes back to. I think that that is a good judgment and a good measuring stick, and I think your inner critic asks you questions, and I want to be able to have answers for those questions that I am asking myself, because I know for a fact that the outer critics are going to be asking me those same questions. And if
Mhm.
I don't already have an answer to those questions, they're going to make up answers for me. And
Right.
9 times out of 10, those answers are not going to be my truth. And the whole purpose of me making art is so that you can see me. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, Now I'm not saying that in like a selfish, I want you to see me type
No,
of
I know,
way,
but
but
it's
but
self-expression.
I don't want to be yes, I don't want to be fake is what I'm trying to
Right.
say. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
like who the Lord made me Eskia, and he didn't make me somebody else. So when you see Eskia's work, I want you to know that it's mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, whether only one person sees it or a million people see it, it's irrelevant. I want it to be right and good in my sight. But but that's why I want, like you said, when you're talking about your inner critic, it's asking me questions. We gotta have answers,
Yeah.
and so whatever those answers are, if we don't like them, well, let that's an opportunity for adventure, in my opinion. So
Okay. Fair enough. Fair
yeah.
enough. Well, let's talk about one of the things that you said there. Um, was triggering another question that I hadn't really planned in this conversation, but what does the role of some of the criticism, whether it's your inner critic or external criticism, how does healthily, what role does that play in your ability to continue to iterate and make progressively quality create creative work? You know what I mean? So like meaning like is it are either of those um slowing down or speeding up, and if they are speeding up, how is that taking place so I can copy your ways?
Okay. So I would say I don't. There's nothing to copy. All I'm saying is is when it comes to who I think my standards are, I reach for the stars. So like when I say I'm my own cheerleader, like when I say I reach for the stars, like my favorite artist is Michelangelo. Okay,
Mm.
now Michelangelo has created some of the most iconic works of art that the humankind has ever seen. Now, am I, Askia, going to create works of art that are as influential and that leave a mark on humankind the way that Michelangelo made art? Absolutely not. Because I don't live in a time or a place that he did, and I have not studied or done the work that he has done. But I have the aspiration that I could if I really wanted to. And he is the one that I have chosen as my standard. And I know that there's way more that I could do because there's a person that has set a standard that I am choosing to look at, that's saying there's a chasm here. And I also believe in a God who says that chasms don't exist, who says that chasm could be crossed if you decided to do impossible things. And I believe that. So, but and that's the mindset. I'm saying I didn't say that it was easy, and it is hard some days. I haven't. There's some scripts that I've only haven't even written a word of, and there's novels that I've written chapters and chapters and chapters, and probably should stop because it's not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And 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 I can say that I'm not using my time in the best places, and I want to be better in those areas, and I'm learning. But that's kind of the point. But that's the point, which is why creative community like this is a place that I am striving to be at, because now you are an outer critic that's going to hold me to a standard that I can't hold to myself, or you're going to help me hold for myself. You know what I'm saying? You know, so but that's what I'm saying. Like, I've decided that, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if when it comes to filmmaking, again, I didn't, as a child, I didn't know that Walt Disney was one of the greatest filmmakers ever. I didn't know that. All I knew is that when you played me a film and that little logo came across the screen, my parents said that I sat down, and for that next 90 minutes, I was enthralled by what happened on the screen. I had no idea that I was learning master storytelling. I did not know that. I just knew that I was watching a good movie. Okay.
Right.
And I know that at 6 and at 17 and now at 32, I could put on one of those same movies and experience the magic all over again, because they went through the process of doing this thing so excellently that it resonates. And that's also a standard. Like, I'm like I'm saying, that's a standard, and that's a standard that I believe that I could reach if I did those things, because those people were humans too. That's good. That's all I'm saying, and I'm saying that those people did work, and if I want to get what they got, I got to do the same kind of work, and that just means that again, if I'm not doing that, I got to change some things in my life. I got to reposition my friends. I got to do more work at the table. I'm working on myself. I'm not there yet.
Pulling the different levers that you have control over that could actually change that.
Yes, but I remain optimistic about it because I'm not dead yet, and I can still go for it. So, but it's not easy. I got the same struggles that you have.
Different struggles, but you do have also struggles.
Yes, exactly. But I may not just. I'm just coming at it from a different angle. It's a diamond.
All right, Jarael, Katina. Actually, Jarael, what you got? I don't even remember what the question was at this point.
I was learning.
You asked me.
Actually, I was asking everybody.
Yeah, you asked what the role of the outer critic, is in the process. Like, does it help you or does it slow down your creative process? And I said that
I got your answer.
Because I have a standard, and I believe,
there was actually two parts to it. So yes, so there's either the outer critic or the inner critic, and for SK, the critic that does the shaping and molding and calling higher is the outer. So maybe Jarael, since for you it's more the inner, if I'm correct, what impact does that have on your work? Is it negatively impacting you more than anything, and you need to like have that change, or is there a way that it's actually helping you create more and better work, or is that question even making sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Historically, it's a straight up hindrance. But I've been making a point, kind of like you, where I'm just like speaking the word over my life and not allowing that inner critic, because I just, we're called to show people grace, but I do not show myself the half amount of grace that I show other people. And it's like,
What
why?
was that statement that your friend told you? I
Oh,
loved
when I
it.
talk,
You know what I'm talking about.
because I'm always talking bad about myself, and she like, you better stop talking about my friend like that. And I'll be like, oh. So when she put it like that, I'm like, I guess, yeah, that's not cool.
Right. Right.
But it's just a habit that I always do. I'm just like, oh, you're so this, I can't do this. So yeah, I'm just making a point of, kind of like Katina said, like, oh, that's a lie. That's rooted in something that happened in the past. So I can't believe that. And then I counteract that with the word. So honestly, lately, when that inner critic starts going, I'm like, oh, that's the enemy. That means I need to get over there and start writing more, or I need to get over here and start doing,
Mm.
finishing up my cards that I'm making for people, whatever it is that I'm doing creatively. Or yeah, I've been trying to counteract that with action instead of
That's good.
inaction, instead of
That's
being like,
good.
oh, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to see that. Yeah.
Mm. That's good.
Yeah.
I love that, and I'm gonna steal that. Like, because my default is thought for thought, and I just end up being in my head having
Hmm.
a thought battle.
And then you're
But like,
paralyzed.
right, right, and nothing's happening.
Nothing.
But there's the thought, and it's like, oh, I'm going to act in the opposite direction as opposed to
Hmm.
just think opposite.
Hmm.
I like that. I like that. Katina, what would you say not to necessarily what she said, but you could be, but to the question in general in regards to the ways that the inner or the outer critic has either helped or hindered you?
So the inner critic, like I said, I've worked on a whole lot. And so when I see it trying to hinder me, I have to start speaking life over myself. And so it helps me in the sense that once I recognize what's going on, even though it's negative, I'm able to stop it and redirect and see where it's coming from and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of reaffirm, what it is that God has already said about me and what I know that's true. And so that's good for my soul and the spirit in general. And then when I think about like that, the outer critic of other people coming in, I've had a lot of outer criticism. And what I have adopted, and even telling, a few people like within the last couple of weeks having conversations, and I mention it off and on all the time about, I remember somebody mentioned to me about eating the meat and throwing away the bone.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about if you
Yeah.
got a piece of chicken breast or chicken leg or whatever, and you eat the meat off of it, and then you don't eat the bone, you throw it away. So sometimes what I found is a person might say something to you and it might be extremely nasty. And it could be based upon 9 times out of 10 when we say stuff that's just so off the wall and hurtful to people is based upon our own trauma and brokenness. And we're saying it from a broken lens. It's based out of anxiety and fear. And sometimes people are like, if even fearfulness, you fearful about something and it can come out as anger. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and then that way, it's like instead of giving the person the message, because 10 people can give one person a message, and 8 out of the 10 of them could like literally leave that person damaged. The other two can actually give the person the message, and they're able to receive it because of the fact of the way that it was done. So it's like when we convey a message to somebody, it's so important that I'm not saying hand holding, but I'm saying like in our delivery of a message, it can have help to make or break a person and
Mm.
break their
Yeah.
spirit. And so I've had, unfortunately, because of other people's brokenness and their trauma and unresolved trauma and not dealing with their things, I've had them out of their own insecurities and them feeling like for some reason I was a threat toward them to then take my work and then actually criticize it to try to get me to hinder me from going further and doing what it is I needed to do and doing my calling. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it was a lot of betrayal trauma behind it. One of them was a group, and then the other one was single individuals where this happened. So, like I said, unfortunately, and I had interviewed one lady on my podcast about a month and a half ago, And she was saying how, because I was mentioning to her about mine, and she said, well, see, in my case, she said, everybody was thinking, okay, because I got the profession I know everything already. So, they wouldn't come to me and say anything, but they saw stuff happen. And she said, but they wouldn't come to me. And you got like the opposite issue where people just coming to you left and right and saying things that are not true, but based on that deeply rooted insecurity. And I'm telling you, I've seen a lot. Is you guys, if you know me personally, especially you, Jarael and Armand, I've been through a lot. So I've been through a lot. And I say that to say as well, I've seen a lot. And so that deeply ingrained insecurity can come out so weird. And when it was first happening, my thing was like, well, I would think to myself, well, I don't understand this because this person has more money, they've got more possessions, they got more this, and that. And then it's like it finally clicked into me like, no, this is not what this is about. When God's favor is on your life in a certain area, and even though you've got all of this trauma and drama going on, and he continues to still show up in the way and allow you to produce the way you're doing, and people see that there's just something, but they can't figure out what it is, that's just enough to get at them, And I just had recently a friend as, I was talking to, and she was just like, well, I don't understand. I said, no, this person is jealous of you. That's what this is. It's jealous, and she finds you as a threat. But this person has all of this. And I said, it's the same thing I used to think, but it don't have anything to do with it. It's something that's in you that she realizes is missing in her. And she's miserable and finds you to be a threat. That's why. And I never thought about it like that before. I said, yeah, it took me a minute to figure it out too. Cause I'm like, your money can wrap around mine. This is silly, but it's not about that. It's about like you having a light and whatever it is that God has put in you, some kind of way, it's threatening to other people. The freer you become, then the more destabilized, and people who have not done the work, they become destabilized. So their only response to that is, I've got to try to control this person.
And your freedom more exposes their chains.
There you go. There you go. My freedom has exposed their chains, and it destabilizes them because it's like, well, it couldn't be that simple. You've got to do this, this, and this. And so then they try to make me a clone of them. And it's like, and so then it's a battle. It's a spiritual warfare battle with them because they continue to try to do that. It's like, no, I'm not doing it like that. And we're not talking about this anymore. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, and so like you said, it's that, the people realizing, like you said, that freedom, I don't have that. And they're trying to figure out how to get it. And instead of them asking you or trying to work with themselves, the only way that they can deal with it is to try to control. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a false sense. Control it's an illusion, and it's a false sense of safety. So I've got to attack you. I got to attack your work, blah, 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 in order for me to feel better about myself. Yeah. So unfortunately, I had a whole lot of that and had to heal from that and heal from the betrayal of that, because then that became part of sometimes when the inner critic starts up as far as the imposter syndrome, where it's built upon, okay, you got the layer of the childhood trauma. And then with the perfectionism, then you got the layer of, from my marriage. And then you got the layer of all of these people who have, because of them not doing their work and me being more free, how it's threatened them, how they've then tried to attack me and my work in the process. And it's just amazing how you just don't, I guess I would say you never know how far a person will do to try to tear apart an individual when they are just not free in themselves. Yeah. That's the only way I can put it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the length they will go through too.
And people, I mean, when you've got people who are stuck in their own pains and their own, problems and their past trauma, like it seems like often the default response is to bring pain to others and to cause trauma for others, and it's like misery loves company. Well, you guys, this has been really rich. Like we're already at the time. Anybody have any final brief thought to share before we dive in to some of the, I want to end it on a light note, so we're going to end with a couple of would you rather questions. But anybody, as we kind of wrap up the thought, SK, it looks like you might have something you wanted to share I see you keep putting that pencil up. No.
I mean, you said light, so no.
He said that. He's got some deep. Well, hey.
Well, you just made me think about something that I never thought of before. That's all. And
So
it was just
now I'm curious. All right, go ahead.
okay.
Share, brother. Share.
How much? It's like one. It's like small. It's just
okay.
Because you're saying like when you're talking about judgment, I'm thinking about this from an artistic lens, and I think I've learned that art and personal, I think I've separated, and I think maybe I've used art, or I'm using art. Art is an armor. It is my armor. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not my art, but art, I think I've used art as an armor. Like, yeah, y'all can talk ish about this because I know that there's an objective standard that I have passed because I have credentials that say that I have done the work. That when you talk to me about if this is good or not, I can be like, you don't know what you're talking about because I've proven. I have a little plaque. I went to the school. I got my name on it. It said that I did the work. So when judgment comes, I can use that as a shield. But personally, all of those things that y'all are talking about, I that's my daily life too. You know what I'm saying? People say things to me or don't say things to me, and I assume that they don't like me no more. And that'll affect my whole day. And then by the end of the day, that person will be like, I noticed that you were having a bad day. Like, what was up? And I'll be like, this morning I thought you slighted me, and I was feeling some type of way the whole day. Or I'll miscommunicate something that somebody said to me, and because it triggered something something else that somebody did to me, I am now going into a place. I know for a fact that there are times where I would put myself in specific emotional trauma intentionally because I thought that would help my art be better.
Wow. That's commitment.
I mean,
you're like a method actor, right? Like
no, but in retrospect, I'm thinking to myself, there was just a habit. Like I thought that I had
like you weren't intentionally doing it, but you were like subconsciously you were doing it. And
yes, like I thought I need to be sad in order to write something sad. So I'm gonna put myself in a sad place on purpose just so that I can feel and be authentic writing something sad instead of just learning adjectives that describe sadness and then writing from that place. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot there. I feel like that's something that we might want to talk about. We might want to talk about that on another episode.
That's why I said you got me thinking.
No, we're gonna put a pin in that right there.
Exactly.
And I do believe we will definitely be talking about that, and I can already hear the context of that conversation to come. So that'll be something for you guys watching or listening to make sure you go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss that future episode where we dive deeper into that. That's good stuff though. So let's end with some kind of stupid would you rather. It's gonna feel like a really weird switch that we go flip right. Would you let's see. Would you rather? This is dumb. This is like all of these sound so dumb to me, right? See, the inner critic right now is criticizing all these before I even
do it.
Okay. Okay. Would you? Where's one that I really liked? Would you rather be a creative genius but misunderstood in your time, or a mediocre artist who's wildly popular? Who wants to go first? And yes, explain why, but do so in like 60 seconds or less.
Can you repeat the question? I want to make sure I heard it correctly.
So there's two choices. You can be a creative genius who during your experience on life, no one really understands you. They don't get that you're a creative genius. Or you could be a mediocre artist who's wildly popular.
I think the creative genius is misunderstood. I feel like
No, go ahead, say it.
Because I'm not, I hate attention. I don't like this. This is a lot for me. Because like the camera's here. I hated my wedding because people are staring. So yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. And good succinct response as to why. Who wants to go next? SK, you've got thoughts. You holding it back.
I mean,
trying to go last?
I think it's like, who doesn't want to be popular? I mean, I'm already, because my first thought is,
I'm already a creative genius.
You're already a genius.
I love it.
Like, so my first thought is, do you want to trade some of this self genius that you think you have, so that people actually know about it? So
that's hilarious.
That's my first thought was, you're already unpopular. People already don't know.
That is
so
hilarious.
Again, but this is why, that's what I'm saying.
No, that's great. That's great. Like
gotta have a team. Gotta have a team. I can't be out here alone.
And that's the value. That's the value. Some of us need more gas. Some of us need chisels. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why we need each other. I love it. And real talk, I literally thought, no joke, everybody needed more gas. Because I know I do, and I'm like, this is what everybody deals with. So this is actually really kind of blowing my mind that there's people that just operate from this state of, I'm awesome.
Like,
what I do is awesome.
I'm an airbender, man. I was born up here. Okay,
hey,
bring me down.
That's beautiful.
That's right.
Bring me down. I'll bring you down, and you bring me up, and we're gonna hang out in the middle. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
What would you say, Katina?
You know what? To be honest, I'm thinking maybe the creative genius. And reason why I say, because I feel like I'm often misunderstood anyway.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like you're on another level. And it's like, when people don't, a lot of times as human beings, when we don't understand something, instead of asking questions or becoming more curious, we can tend to demonize people. Just like when you think about in the scriptures how the Pharisees were and other people with Jesus, like, oh, he's Beelzebub. He's doing this from Beelzebub. He's a demon or whatever. So we don't understand something as human beings. We often demonize it. We judge it. We criticize it. All of the above. Instead of, like I said, trying to become more curious and, having the ability to understand where this person is coming from. But a lot of times, because what happens is that people like to, human beings, we like to be able to put people like in a certain container, and on a shelf and kind of categorize it. But then when this person does a lot of different things and they don't really understand, where do they put you? So that's how I feel like my experience has been with most people.
Okay.
So I'd rather have the creative part. And if I'm misunderstood, at least I feel like I'm doing the Lord's work. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I'm doing what I've been called and created to do.
Fair enough. And I would say for different reasons, the creative genius, but misunderstood, mainly because actually maybe not for different reasons, Katina.
Now that you think about it.
Because I do very much feel like nobody gets me. And so I think for me, a lot of my creative work is trying to be understood and trying to express what I feel like I'm struggling to express. So it feels like, this would be natural, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not popular. So whatever, because I'm not popular to me. So why would I be popular to others?
Got
so anyways.
You.
All right, I think we got time for one more. I know it got deep. I wasn't trying to get deep. It's hard. It's hard to joke about self-hatred. Okay, so would you?
No, it's not. All comedy is based on it.
Right. That is actually pretty true. Okay, so would you? Oh, where'd it go? So this one I thought was interesting, and we're gonna close with this one. Would you rather have every idea that you think of instantly executed, but outside of your control and by somebody else? Or never have any of your ideas leave your head?
Does that mean I get the control?
Well,
I
no,
need you to
it means
repeat it one more
they
time.
just no, that means the idea never is realized. So it
Can you
never
repeat the
happens.
whole thing
So,
again?
Well,
Your
then
yeah,
let
last
yeah,
them
yeah,
time.
go then. Let them all go.
would,
I'll-
would
you
okay,
get
hold
the
on.
idea.
Let me
You
repeat
get
the question, and then I'll let you answer first. All right. So Katina can hear the question. All right. So would you rather have every idea that you think of instantly executed without your control and by somebody else, or that your ideas would never leave your head? So all the ideas you think of, it's happening, but somebody else is doing it and you ain't got nothing to do with it. Or that you have all these great ideas, but they never are realized. So go ahead, SK. You had an initial thought while Katina's chewing that.
I said we're Oprah out here, Dan. Let's go. You get an idea. You get an idea. You get an idea. What idea? You getting one too. Let's go.
You'd be the genie of ideas.
What?
Like, ooh,
Absolutely.
ooh,
Want to know why? Because at the end of the day, my name got to go on it somewhere.
No, my word.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's really funny. That's not a horrible way to think about it.
For legal reasons. I'm just playing. But no. I'm cool to be the wellspring. Let's go. I'm here for it.
Fair enough. Yeah. Who wants to go next? Jarael, Katina?
I think I'm with SK on this one. Just give them out. You know what?
Yeah.
It's for the Lord's glory. There you go.
See, now it's like you can't say anything else, right? You just made that the Christian answer.
I wasn't trying to be Christian. I was just saying,
I'm just saying that's what Jarael just did.
coming,
Jarael spiritualized it, and now Katina, sorry, you can't say nothing. No, I'm just playing.
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is a hard one for me because if I'm giving it out, and it wouldn't even be about me wanting to control it. My thought is if it goes out and it's not, once people get your stuff and they take it and twist it and put into something that's not even you anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it depends on like if my name was attached to that. Because if not, as much as I would like the ideas to be taken, then I would have to choose option one, because if they're not going to put it out there in the way that I would want it to be put out there, where I feel, going back to like the wording and being able to pull people into the target audience, into the message, that would be hard for me.
So if we assumed that it didn't have your name attached to it, you'd be okay with the ideas going out? Or am I misunderstanding?
You know what? In a sense, yes, because of the fact that, like I said, that's what's making me think about option one, where the ideas never left. But it's like you said, my name being attached to it, but the message not being put out there the way that I'm trying to get it put out there for others to receive it, if that makes sense, which can be very difficult because most times people are not, even when you write a book, and I know some people get other people to do it. And in the beginning, I didn't know the proper way of being able to market my books in the very beginning. And once I learned that way, I had a lot of people DMing me, asking if I wanted them to take that part over and they could go ahead and give me a summary and give me this and give me that and write my whole marketing. And I said, no, I do my own brand script because I need it to come out the way that I want the audience to receive it. I know the words that I need to say. And if it's somebody else saying that, and it's not being received the way it needs to be received, their problem is not being solved.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I do understand. So the reason for the control would be to ensure that it actually meets the need that the idea was intended to meet.
Exactly, because my journey was gone through in order for me to be able to meet the need in the first place. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. And I wholesale reject the question.
You're not getting out of this.
No, I'm cheating. I can't cheat. I can't cheat. But like, I really hate the question, and I will pick one. But I really hate the question because my first thought when seeing the choices is it feels like in either version, I'm robbed of the actual act of creativity. Like, not creativity, of creation. So there's creativity in having the idea in both versions, but I'm not a part of the actual act of creation in either version. Like, either nothing happens or somebody else takes it and does it. But I'm like, but I want, and for me, I'm a doer. Like, I want to do stuff. I want to get stuff done. So I just feel like I'm being, crippled. But I think if I had to choose one or the other, I would probably pick the one where the ideas just happened. Because and the only reason why I would say that is because I would think about it in the perspective of some of the ideas that I have that are less artistic and creative and more about like this world being a better place. And let's go full circle. Off the call or off the recording, we talked about some of the pains that are going on in this world. And SK, you talked about we need to love each other and listen to each other better. Like, that's an idea. You know what I mean? And as soon as you have that idea, if that now is happening, all right, I'm down. You know what I mean? So but from a creative perspective, I hate the question. I hate it altogether. I don't know why I picked that question, especially not to be the last one, because I did want to end on a high note. But we do need to end no matter what the note. So, you guys, this has been a great conversation. Those of you that are watching and listening, I hope you would agree. And if you've had thoughts, interactions with this, don't just leave those ideas in your head. We'd love to hear them. Go ahead and put those in the comments, or you can reach out anywhere on social media at Ordered Chaos Club. We'd love to be interacting with you and make this an ongoing conversation. So if you've also have some ideas about conversations you'd love to hear us talk about and have discussions around, put those in the comments as well, and we'll really see if we can make some of those the focal point in future discussions. So having said that, thank you guys for being, I won't say guests because y'all are part of the team, but for being in this first full collaborative conversation. I'm super pumped that we did it. And I pray that you guys watching and listening were blessed by this as well. And we will see you back here on the next episode.
And if you're looking for a community of Christ-centered creatives who get the struggle and want to grow together, go ahead and join us at the Ordered Chaos Club. You can head on over to Ordered Chaos Club. You can head on over to orderedchaosclub.com and join this amazing movement of Christian creatives. And for more faith-fueled creativity, devotionals, inspiration, check out freedomstorymedia.com. Thanks for being here today. Be blessed, be a blessing, and keep creating for God's glory. Oh, before you leave, this video over here is probably one that I think you're really going to enjoy. And this one over here, it's a collection of other episodes from this podcast. So go ahead and check that out, and we'll see you back here next time.